Hey guys, it's Jasa. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going over my Rome trip itinerary. So in December we went to Rome and we spent 8 days there. We didn't really have a game plan every day for things we wanted to do, so I feel like our trip wasn't as optimized as it could be. So based off of everything we did, I made an optimized list for if we ever went back. This is kind of how we would do it. And if you're going soon, this is what I recommend you doing. So I have this list broken up into 3 days because if we went back, I would recommend doing 3 days to see everything. You could do longer if you had other things you wanted to do, but I think 3 days would be perfect. I'll also include the picture of the list that I'm talking about on the screen somewhere. And I'll also try to include some pictures and videos of the different things I'm talking about. So you kind of understand what I'm talking about and get an idea if maybe any of this stuff is stuff that you guys want to include on your trip. So we're going to be starting with day one. For day one, I would wake up early and I would start at the Spanish Steps. The reason being is these steps get extremely busy. When we went in December, we went towards the evening, and let me tell you, there was hundreds, if not thousands of people on these steps. And tons of people just like in front of the steps trying to get pictures. So we didn't get any pictures, we definitely didn't get videos, and we also just weren't able to enjoy the steps because there were so many people. So if I was to do this again, I would definitely wake up early and try to get there first thing in the morning, because I've heard this is when there's like minimal crowds. So if you do just want to enjoy the steps, if you want to get pictures, and just have like a more relaxed experience, try going first thing in the morning. Especially if you're going in the busy season. You're gonna hear me say this a lot, but Rome is becoming a very popular destination and it's getting very busy. So again, first thing in the morning, I would go to the Spanish Steps. So after the Spanish Steps, we're heading over to the Trevi Fountain. We went twice to the Trevi Fountain, once in the middle of the day and then one time in the evening. And both times it was extremely packed. So again, I would recommend waking up early, going to the Spanish Steps, and then the Trevi Fountain is right down the street, just walking over to the Trevi Fountain. Now, if you do this, hopefully the crowds are minimal. You'll just get a gorgeous view of the fountain without tons of people there. And again, if you want to take a picture or a video or just enjoy the scenery, you should be able to do it without a ton of people. And this is just what I've heard online, that typically in the mornings and in the evenings it's not supposed to be so busy, but in the evenings it was very busy when we went. So I would just recommend trying to do it in the morning before it gets too crowded. The third place on my list after the Trevi Fountain would be the Pantheon. Again, we're kind of just trying to optimize which direction you're walking in. So if you start at the Spanish Steps, the next thing would be the Trevi Fountain and then the Pantheon, which is a gorgeous building. We did go inside and I recommend you doing so as well. But there is so much history there and honestly, it was just very worth it. Alright, so after the Pantheon, we're going to Piazza Navona, which I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's basically this huge plaza that I believe has 3 different fountains, and depending on which time of the year you go, there could be markets going on. So when we went in December, there was a Christmas market, which was really cool because there was a ton of local stands there that had like local crafts, food, beverages. So I recommend looking when you're going and seeing if there's any like things like that going on. Besides like a market going on, there's also like a ton of places to eat there and a ton of places to shop, so that's very cool. And I remember there being a church in like the plaza that you could go inside of, and honestly the architect was just insanely gorgeous. So if you have time to do that, I believe it was free, you could just go inside. I would go check it out. It's honestly pretty cool. Thing on the list for day one would be the Castle St. Angelo. And I recommend you doing this because honestly it's just super cool. It's a huge castle that you can go inside of, and then you can go all the way to the top, and just the architect throughout the entire castle is really cool. But at the top you can see like the entire city of Rome, including St. Peter's Basilica. So when we did this again more in the evening, but when we did, everything was lit up. So it was honestly very cool to see. But I will recommend, if you're going in the busy season, I say this a lot, try getting tickets online in advance if this is something you really want to do. The reason being is because these tickets, again, will sell out. And even when we went, we waited in quite a long line to get tickets. So if this is just something on your list of things to do, you don't want the tickets to sell out, or you just don't want to be waiting up to a couple hours in line for tickets, try booking in advance if at all possible. But this is something, again, I'll insert like some pictures and videos on the screen. I definitely recommend you doing it. It was very cool. Alright, so we are moving on to day 2. Alright, so for day 2, we are going to be talking about the Colosseum. A tour that I recommend you booking is the Underground Arena and Forum tour. And I have an entire video about it on my YouTube shorts, but an overview is you get to skip the line, and you also get to go down into the underground tunnels of the Colosseum, which you can only do through a tour because an archaeologist does have to take you. So the archaeologist would be your tour guide, and they are just very knowledgeable. So honestly, it is totally worth it to do the tour. And then they take you back to the arena part of the Colosseum. So you get to go again in the underground tunnels, and then you also get to go to the arena. So great pictures, tons of like facts and like the history of it. And it's just definitely worth the money to book the specific tour. And then the second part of this tour, your tour guide will take you to the Roman Forum. And again, you get to skip the line, so that is always worth it. And there's just so much history and ancient architect there that is definitely worth booking a tour to go see. And if you don't want to book a tour, you can just buy tickets. Again, there might be a long line or the tickets might sell out, but the Colosseum and the Roman Forum are definitely two places that should definitely be on your list of things to see. I don't see a lot of people talking about. It's the Capitoline Museums, and again, this is right down the street from the Roman Forum and the Colosseum, but basically it's just this huge museum that has like a ton of statues, paintings, there was fountains. But the thing I really liked about this museum was we went in the evening, and they have a little area outside that's like a balcony, and it overlooks the Roman Forum. This is really cool because at night they have lights all throughout the Roman Forum, so everything is lit up and it just looks very gorgeous. Again, I will insert pictures to show you guys what I'm talking about, but it was definitely a very cool museum, and I don't really see a whole lot of people talking about it. So if you like ancient statues, again, paintings, fountains, stuff like that, it's definitely worth it. Alright guys, so the final thing on my list for day 2 is the Altar of the Fatherland. Now, again, I don't see anybody talking about this, and honestly, I didn't even know what it was at first. We walked by it one night, and I saw people walking up these huge steps, and we were like, we want to do that, and they let you do it for free, so that was always a bonus. But it was absolutely gorgeous. It's kind of like this huge museum. So you walk up these large steps, there's huge statues everywhere, but once you get to the top, you can walk around to kind of like the back of the museum, and there is a glass elevator. This is really cool because I don't remember it being too expensive, and I honestly don't remember the price, but it's basically an elevator that takes you to the very top of the museum, and you get like this most gorgeous view of Rome. There's also Nike statues at the very top, and they looked so gorgeous because it was like the statue, and then you could see the moon behind them. But it was definitely an experience that I don't hear anybody talking about, but I would definitely do again if we ever went back to Rome. So again, I've already said this, I will insert pictures so you guys understand what I'm talking about, and I'll also insert like a picture of the building because I hope it's called the Altar of the Fatherland. I'm pretty sure it is. That's what it says on Google, but definitely check it out. So for day 3, we have the Vatican Museum, Sistine Chapel, and St. Peter's Basilica. So when we went, we only did the Vatican Museum, but I would definitely recommend doing St. Peter's Basilica as well because I've seen videos and pictures of it and it looks gorgeous. But the Vatican Museum is honestly amazing. There is just so much history within the museum, and there is like paintings on the floor, on the ceiling, pictures everywhere. There's just so much history. It is so cool. And also they had like different exhibits throughout the museum. So they even had like an ancient Egypt exhibit, and that was very cool. So it's definitely one of those things. I would give like the Vatican Museum, Sistine Chapel, and St. Peter's Basilica just a full day by itself because it does take a full day. I will say there are some tours online that you can book where you can do all 3 with a tour group. And they even have some that are early access. So if you want to miss like the crowds and a ton of people just being in the museum, you can do the early access one where they take you before the museum even opens. So that's always a great option. But yeah, that would just be my day 3. So for the first honorable mention, we have the Crypts and Catacombs tour, which you weren't allowed to take any pictures at, but it's honestly just like this really cool tour where they take you to 2 different locations. They have a bus that will take you from the first location to the second location, but again, the tour guides were just very knowledgeable. There's so much history on this tour, and it is just something, if you have the time, I would recommend you seeing. Alright, so we're moving on to my second honorable mention, and that will be going to different thrift stores throughout Rome. Now, there is a ton, so you can honestly Google some that are near where your like Airbnb is or your hotel is, but it's very cool. There's like a ton of vintage clothing. They had like vintage Levi's. There was even a ton of like coats, jackets, just a lot of vintage clothes. So if you're looking for something fun to do one afternoon, you don't have a tour booked, or you don't really want to go sightseeing, that is always a great option, and we really enjoyed doing that. Alright, so I hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, or if you want me to go more in depth on any of these tours, I definitely can. And I'll also put together like a food itinerary, I guess you could call it, of different places that you should eat while you're in Rome, because we ate at some delicious spots. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.